I think it's better if we start at the end. So here I am, sitting in a waffle cafe at 3:30 p.m. Behind me, 2 tables away, a couple of girls were once again complaining about their boss. 3 young women sat directly in front of me, stuffing themselves with toast, and the waitress had just refilled my glass. Suddenly, a shadow loomed over me. "Well, Max," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I was wondering when you decide to show up." Max, or rather, Maxwell Kate, was my former father-in-law. "Chris, could we talk?" he asked. I'd known this man for over 7 years, and for the first time, he seemed genuinely pleasant to me. He looked like someone entirely different. A man who wasn't brimming with confidence and control, a sight I had to witness for myself. "Sit down, Max. You're scaring the kids," I said as he took a seat across from me. The girls nearby glanced our way in surprise. Max had always been a formidable figure, both in stature and in mind. He owned the largest warehouse in the area and ran the only substantial freight company within a 100-mile radius. When the local economy started declining about 15 years ago, Max managed to stay afloat, and many people owed him their livelihoods, their homes, and sometimes even their lives. And don't forget, he stood at 6 feet 6 inches, still looked like he could work in a prison yard, and was not the kind of man anyone would want to mess with. Max slumped across from me in a private booth, looking like he'd been through hell. He was unshaven, with dark circles under his eyes. Signs of sleepless nights at the K's household. "Poor kids," he murmured. "Chris, I know you're hurt, but can't you and Kelly just move past this little incident?" he asked. Little incident? I forced myself to stay silent, though my heart felt like it was going to beat right out of my chest. My hands were clammy, and I had to fight the urge to reach across the table and strangle him. It took a few moments to calm down. I reminded myself that I didn't want to brawl with Max. I wanted to come out victorious. Once I had calmed down, I noticed everyone around us trying hard to act like they weren't listening. But damn, I knew they were dying to hear the drama, so why not give them a show? "All right, Max," I said, my voice low but not bothering to whisper. "Which part of this incident do you want me to forget?" "It was just one time," he said. "No, Max. This went on for years, and you know it. She never did anything like this before." "She never cheated," he replied. "Come on, Max. She's been playing me for years," I said. "And you want the whole truth?" "Fine," I said, picking up my biscuit. When I first met her and tried to get her number, she made it a point to show off every guy who wanted to sleep with her, and even those who already had. "Why, Max? Why did she do that?" I asked. "She was trying to push you away, Chris." "But you managed to win her over," he said. "Nope," I interrupted, spreading apple jam on my toast. "She wanted to see if I'd fight for her, and like an idiot I did. I gave her all the attention she was craving." I took a bite of the biscuit and continued. "Then she brought me home to meet you, her dad. And even back then, you hated me. You didn't like my politics, my career, my style. None of it. At first, I thought it was just the grumblings of an overprotective father. But no, you simply didn't like me. I was never good enough for your little princess." Max clenched his jaw, but he couldn't argue. He knew I was right. I paused, savoring the jam. I wanted to prove to you that I was a good guy, but I couldn't. I was supposed to just accept everything you said without a word. You know, I could hardly believe it myself. I walked into the house, the one I hadn't stepped foot in for months, and it felt different. The smell of fresh paint and new wood lingered in the air, but it wasn't the renovation that caught my attention. It was the eerie silence. This place was supposed to be my sanctuary, my escape. Now, it felt like an empty shell, just another place where my life had once been. I spent the whole weekend alone just thinking. The bitterness and the pain of the last few years began to settle in, but somewhere in the midst of it all, I felt a strange sense of relief. I hadn't realized how much I needed this space, how much I needed to be away from the chaos, from the lies, from her. The days dragged on, each one passing in a blur. Monday came. And I found myself back at work, still carrying the weight of everything that had happened. But I wasn't the broken man Max had expected me to be. No, I was a man who had been pushed to his limits, and now I was walking away. I hadn't planned on seeing Max again, but as fate would have it, he showed up at my office on Tuesday, his hands nervously fidgeting with the hem of his jacket. He was a giant of a man, yet in that moment he looked smaller, less imposing. "Chris," he started, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. "I know things between us have never been great, but I need to apologize." I raised an eyebrow. Apologize? For what? For letting his daughter ruin my life? For standing by as she destroyed everything I had worked for? "Max," I said, my tone cool but firm. "Save it. You don't owe me anything." "But I do," he said, his eyes searching mine, as if trying to find some sign of forgiveness, some sign that I was still the same person he thought I was all those years ago. I didn't know she was capable of that. I thought. He trailed off, his words failing him, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for him. But then I remembered the nights of sleepless worry, the insults, the endless manipulation. Max had always been a hard man, a man who ran everything around him with an iron fist. He didn't know what it was like to lose everything because he never had to. "I know, Max, but you can't fix this," I said. "She made her choices, and now I'm making mine." Max looked like he was about to argue, but I cut him off. "I've had enough of the games, the lies, the manipulation. I'm done trying to play hero for people who don't deserve it." He nodded slowly, like he understood but couldn't fully accept it. I don't want to see you destroy yourself over this." "It's not worth it, Chris." I shook my head. "It's already done. I'm better off without it." Max didn't say anything after that. He just stood up, his towering frame looming over me one last time, before he turned and walked out of the office. I sat there, staring at the door he had left open behind him, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace that I didn't need Max's approval, and I certainly didn't need his pity. I had fought for too long, only to realize that the true battle was never with them. It was with myself. And now, for the first time, I was starting to win that I drove back to the house to pick up my things. No one was there. Maybe they'd gone to church. I don't know. I gathered my clothes and anything else I needed, then headed to the Salvation Army to find a bed. The floor was just too hard. As I sat there sipping my soda, I heard laughter around me. When I returned, I saw her, your precious daughter. But I couldn't have cared less about the bed in the truck at that moment. I parked and walked to the door. "Chris, Chris," she shouted, running toward me from her car. "Please stop, we need to talk. I have to explain everything." That was all I heard because, by then, I was already inside. She knocked, rang the bell, and tried everything she could to get me to open the door. But I wasn't going to talk to a cheater. What was there to explain? She slept with another guy in my bed. End of story. Did I open the door and yell at her? No. Did I call the police? No. Did I sneak out the back door? No. I put on my headphones and started reading a magazine. Eventually, the cops showed up and told her to leave. It took them a while to get me to open the door, but once I noticed their cars' lights flashing outside, I had no choice but to comply. Nothing special. It's my house, in my name, and I can be there if I want. So, they sent her away. If it had been anyone else, they'd be in jail. But she's your little girl. Max nervously thanked Hardy when she placed a cup of coffee in front of him. He wasn't used to this. He usually controlled everything, ran the show, but now I was in charge, and I wasn't letting go. On Monday, I withdrew $112,000 from our bank account, canceled all our joint credit cards, not that I ever used them, and cleaned up. I also went to SNK for an interview. They'd been trying to expand for a while, and had tried to convince me before, but Kelly thought it was too risky. When I went on my own, they made me a great offer, and I took it. Then, I went to my boss's office. Tom, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm leaving, I told him. Why? I thought you liked it here, he said, genuinely concerned. Actually, I hate it, I replied. You're a good boss, but I didn't go to college to be a clerk. I recently found out my wife was cheating on me, and I need to leave. Is it Kelly? He asked. I'm afraid there's nothing you can do, I said. Tom tried to convince me to stay, but it was too late. I was already done. I hate it. You're a good boss, but I didn't go to college to be a clerk. I recently caught my wife with another man, and I need to leave. Damn, is it Kelly? Tom asked, his voice filled with concern. I don't want to lose you. Is there any way I can convince you to stay? Sorry, Tom, but there's nothing you can do. Thanks for everything. As I walked out, I noticed his secretary chatting innocently on the phone. You know she was gossiping about what she overheard. Then I visited Mrs. Hines, a good lawyer. Yeah, I know she has an assistant helping with the divorce, but someone hoped Kelly wouldn't get the papers at work on Tuesday. They tried to convince me all day yesterday and today to talk to her, but I just walked away. I think your guys saw my car and thought they could fix things between me and Kelly. So, Max, what was that little incident? I asked. She was sleeping with another guy in our marital bed. Max hesitated, looking at me. Why did she cheat? I paused, taking a breath. I had a choice, initially. I could have left him in my bed. She would have loved that. It would have satisfied her higher sexual drive. But no, I didn't play that game. For years, I put up with your damn family and their tests. What did I get in return? Trust? Love? Respect? No. I came home to find her with another man. Max sat there, silent, staring at me. She wanted me to prove myself once more, I continued. But I walked away. I didn't play that game, Max. Finally, Max composed himself. Isn't there anything that could save your marriage? I know Kelly genuinely loves you, he almost pleaded. She loves me, Max. I'm tired, I said, my voice calm but firm. Just then, I heard the door of the Waffle Cafe open. I turned to see Kelly standing by the counter. She must have heard my last remark. Our eyes met, and I saw the tears in hers, a tremble in her chin, but I felt nothing. I pulled out a $20 bill, placed it on the table, and stood up to leave. As I walked out into the night, I turned to Max and said, I don't know what you did to raise your daughter like that, but I can't live with it anymore. She'll never change. She needs someone who can show their need for her constantly, and I don't have that left in me. I loved her, Max, but she killed that. I hope you're all happy now. Max didn't move as I walked out, but I didn't care anymore. I had no more energy left to fight for something that wasn't worth it.